Come closer, friend. I want to tell you about a jail that has no bars, no walls you can touch, no locks you can pick, no guards standing outside the door. But almost everyone alive is locked inside it right now, and most of them don't even know it. This jail is built out of small things. An old insult you can't put down. A person who hurt you and never said sorry. A moment from years ago that still plays in your head like it happened this morning. And here is the part that hurts the most. Right now, somewhere, the person who hurt you is not thinking about you at all. They are eating dinner. They are laughing at something on their phone. They will sleep just fine tonight. Meanwhile, you are still replaying the fight. The real damage was never what they did to you. The real damage is that they don't have to hurt you anymore, because your own mind is doing it for them, for free, every single day. Marcus Aurelius ran one of the biggest empires the world has ever seen. He had armies. He had more power than almost any man in history. But he said the hardest thing he ever had to rule wasn't Rome. It was his own head. Every day, people lied about him, mocked him, tried to bring him down. And he learned something most people never learn. Nobody can walk into your peace of mind unless you hold the door open for them. So ask yourself something right now. And don't lie to yourself when you answer. How many nights have you lost to someone's opinion of you? How many good mornings have you thrown away because of one text message, one rejection, one memory that won't let go? The old Stoics had a word for this. They called it slavery. The kind of slavery you can't see is always the strongest kind, because you don't even know you're wearing the chains. Today, that changes. You're about to hear 10 short lessons that come from men who lived thousands of years ago, but who understood the human mind better than most people do today. These lessons won't make you stop feeling things. They will make you impossible to break. By the end, you'll understand why staying quiet can hit harder than any comeback. Why not caring can be your biggest weapon. And why the people who have mastered themselves never beg anyone for approval. Stay until the end. The last lesson is the one that turns a calm man into an unshakable one. First, guard your front door. Every kingdom that ever fell didn't fall the day the enemy showed up outside the walls. It fell the day someone on the inside left the gate open. Your mind works exactly the same way. Every insult you replay before bed, every opinion you carry into tomorrow, every person you let live rent-free in your thoughts, that's a door you left unlocked. The real damage never comes from outside you. It starts the second you decide to hold on to a thought you should have let go. Picture an old fortress, 1,000 soldiers standing guard on the walls. But the commander isn't scared of the enemy's numbers. He's scared of one thing: that someone inside will quietly open the gate before sunrise. That's exactly how your peace gets destroyed. Nobody from the outside can get into your head unless you open the door yourself. Every time you overreact, that's an invitation. Every time you blow up, that's a key you just handed someone who never earned it. Marcus Aurelius knew this better than anyone. Every morning he woke up expecting to be lied about, mocked, and stabbed in the back that same day. So before he got his army ready, he got his mind ready first. He reminded himself, people can attack my name, question my choices, doubt my judgment, but none of them can touch who I really am unless I hand it to them myself. Look at the ocean during a storm. On the surface, it's chaos. Huge waves, noise, foam flying everywhere. But 1,000 feet down, the water doesn't move at all. That's what your mind is supposed to become. Deep. Shallow people react to every little comment because they're only living on the surface. Strong people build so much depth that the noise up top never even reaches who they really are. So before we move on, answer this honestly. Who has been living in your head, rent-free for months, maybe years, without ever asking to be there? The day you finally close that door is the day you stop being a prisoner of other people and start being the one guarding your own peace. Second, stop pouring fuel on the fire. Picture standing in front of a fire, holding a bucket. But instead of water, it's full of oil. Every angry word, every time you defend yourself when nobody's actually attacking, every argument you refuse to drop, that's another splash of oil on the flames. Most people think they're fighting back. Really, they're just feeding the fire and keeping it alive longer. The old Stoic said something most of us don't want to hear. Not every fight deserves your energy. Some wins cost you so much peace that they're actually losses wearing a disguise. Every minute spent trying to convince someone who's already made up their mind about you is a minute stolen from your actual life. Epictetus taught that when someone insults you, they aren't describing you. They're describing the picture of you that lives inside their own head. That picture says everything about their fears and nothing about your character. Once you really get that, their words stop landing, because you realize they were never talking about the real you in the first place. Look at the people you respect most. They're rarely the loudest ones in the room. They don't sprint to answer every insult. They know storms burn themselves out eventually. Mountains don't have to move. Staying quiet isn't weakness. It's often the strongest thing you can do, because it proves you don't need anyone's approval to know your own worth. Ask yourself, how many fires are still burning today, simply because you keep tossing fuel on them? Sometimes the strongest move isn't winning the argument. It's walking away before the argument becomes your cage. Third, become someone they can't reach. At some point, every person has to answer a question nobody else can answer for them. Are you going to spend your whole life chasing approval from people who can't even run their own minds? Or are you finally going to become someone whose peace isn't for sale? Most people never even ask this question. They just wake up every day and hand their emotions to whoever wants them. Every opinion, every rejection, every rude comment gets to decide how they feel about themselves. Here's the truth the Stoics understood. Whoever controls your emotions is quietly running your life. They don't need chains or threats. They just need your reaction. Once someone can predict your anger or your fear, they can move you around like a chess piece. A man who can't control himself will always end up being used as somebody else's tool. Picture a mountain standing under a wild storm, thunder cracking, lightning tearing the sky apart, freezing rain coming down. And when the storm finally passes, the mountain hasn't moved 1 inch. The storm thought it was powerful because it was loud. The mountain was powerful because it never had to answer back. That's the difference between noise and real strength. Noise wants attention. Strength doesn't need it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your mind becomes whatever you keep letting inside it. Every insult you keep replaying is one more brick in the prison you're building for yourself. From today, stop asking whether people understand you. Start asking whether they even deserve access to your mind at all. Not everyone who talks to you deserves your attention. Not everyone who criticizes you deserves an explanation. Peace doesn't come from making the world treat you better. Peace starts the moment you become someone that can't be pushed around, because your worth stopped depending on their opinion. Fourth, live like you already know the ending. The old Stoics practiced something that scared most people back then, and it still scares most people now. Every morning, before making a single decision, they reminded themselves, "One day, my name will be said out loud for the last time." This wasn't meant to create fear. It was meant to kill every fear that wasn't worth carrying in the first place. Walk through the ruins of an old palace, statues of kings nobody remembers anymore. There was a time when whole armies trembled at these names. Now dust sits on their crowns, and nobody even asks who they were. Time doesn't negotiate with anyone, not even kings. So ask yourself something most people are too scared to ask. If your life ended 1 year from today, would the argument keeping you up tonight still matter? Would that rejection still feel like such a big deal? Suddenly, the things that felt like mountains shrink down to grains of sand. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that everyone who praised him would die one day, and everyone who criticized him would disappear too. Their opinions were only temporary, because they themselves were only temporary. The only thing worth his attention was the character he carried inside. Your reputation belongs to the crowd. Your character belongs to you. One can disappear overnight. The other survives everything. Picture the final day of your own life. Picture looking back at every hour you spent trying to prove yourself to people who never actually cared. Then ask the question that changed everything for the greatest thinkers in history. If everything outside you eventually disappears anyway, why are you trading your peace for things that were never going to last? Fifth, let them walk away. One of the biggest lies ever sold to people is that everyone deserves a place in your heart. From childhood, you're taught to be available, to explain yourself, to forgive without end, to keep proving your worth to people who already decided they'll never see it. But nature never works that way. The sun doesn't rise to convince blind people that light exists. The ocean doesn't chase after someone who's thirsty. A mountain never shrinks so everyone can climb it easily. The strongest things in the world never beg to be noticed. They just exist. A lion doesn't turn around because a bunch of birds are screaming at him from above. He keeps walking because he understands something the birds never will. Noise isn't power. Attention is. The moment you stop reacting to every insult, something strange happens. The people who thought they controlled your emotions suddenly find out they don't have access to you anymore. And nothing confuses someone who likes to manipulate people more than a person they can no longer manipulate. Seneca warned that the biggest waste of a life is giving your time to people who treat it like it's worthless. Think of how many years disappear because people are terrified of losing someone who was never afraid of losing them. Respect was never born from begging. It's born from quiet dignity. There comes a moment when you have to make a hard choice. Stop grieving the people who walked away, and start grieving the version of yourself that disappeared while trying to keep them around. Maybe your biggest loss was never that person. Maybe it was your own peace, your own confidence, your own identity. And the moment you get those back, you realize some people weren't taken from you. They were removed to make room for who you were always meant to become. So when someone chooses to leave, let them. When someone refuses to see your worth, let them. When someone mistakes your calm for weakness, let them. You're not losing the right people. They're losing the chance to know a version of you that only a few will ever be lucky enough to meet. Sixth, stop needing to be understood. At some point, everyone hits the same painful truth. No matter how honest you are, someone will call you a liar. No matter how kind you are, someone will call you cruel. No matter how much you give, someone will say it wasn't enough. This isn't because you failed to explain yourself properly. It's because people don't see you clearly. They see you through their own old wounds, their own fears, and the story they already decided to believe before they even met you. Picture a still lake under the moon, reflecting everything perfectly, until someone throws a rock into it. The reflection breaks apart. Not because the moon changed, because the water did. That's how people's minds work. When someone's mind is stirred up by jealousy, pride, or insecurity, they can't see you clearly at all. They only see the twisted reflection made by the storm going on inside them, And yet most people spend their whole lives trying to fix a reflection that was never theirs to control. Epictetus warned that the moment you make it your job to control what's happening inside someone else's head, you've already given up control of your own. Every explanation you keep giving becomes another chain around your own freedom. The need to be understood is often just fear of being misunderstood, and fear was never a good place to build peace from. The strongest people in history all shared one quiet habit. They let people misunderstand them without letting that misunderstanding define who they were. One day, you'll find a kind of freedom that feels almost strange. It's the day you stop measuring your worth by the opinions of people who never carried your problems, never fought your battles, and never walked through your worst nights. On that day, your silence stops looking like giving up. It becomes proof that you know who you are so deeply. Nothing anyone says can shake it. 7th, life is quietly testing you. Every day asks you a question, but it never says the words out loud. It watches how you react when someone disrespects you. It watches the anger that shows up when things feel unfair. It watches the fear that creeps in when everything you built starts falling apart. Then, in total silence, it hands you a score. Not based on what you say you believe. Based on who you actually become when your comfort gets taken away. Character never shows up in easy moments. It only shows up the second the storm hits. Picture an old blacksmith standing in front of a furnace so hot the air shakes. He never puts weak metal in that fire. There's no reason to waste the flame. Only the strongest steel goes in, gets heated until it glows, hammered until it cracks, folded again and again until every weak spot disappears. The steel never understands why it has to go through that. It only feels the pain. But once it's done, it becomes a blade that lasts for generations. Life doesn't test you because it's out to get you. It tests you because weakness can't turn into strength without going through the fire first. Marcus Aurelius never asked for hardship to disappear. He asked for the strength to stay himself while walking through it. Every insult tested his patience. Every betrayal tested his integrity. Every loss tested how attached he really was to things. Most people fail this test without even noticing it happening. One insult steals their kindness. One disappointment steals their hope. One betrayal steals their ability to trust anyone again. Slowly, without realizing it, they let the world rewrite who they are. That's the real victory your worst moments could hand your enemies. Not that they hurt you once, but that they changed who you were becoming. The Stoics believed every hard moment carries two hidden gifts: the event itself and the chance to find out who you really are. Most people just stare at the wound and ask, "Why did this happen to me?" The strong ones ask a better question: "Who is this pain trying to turn me into?" 8th, bury the old you. There's an enemy that's followed you since the day you were born. It knows every fear you hide, every regret you won't let go of, every dream you gave up on because you doubted yourself. It has watched every failure and quietly convinced you that becoming great is meant for somebody else. The sad part is, this enemy never lived outside you. It's always spoken in your own voice. Most people spend their whole lives preparing for battles that never come, while ignoring the war already happening inside their own head. They blame bad luck, betrayal, and hard circumstances for the life they're living. But the Stoics believed no prison is more dangerous than the one you build with your own thoughts. Long before the world defeats you, you first have to give up on yourself. The biggest loss isn't losing to the world, it's losing faith in yourself before the world even had a chance to test you. Picture an old warrior walking into a fight wearing armor that's already cracked underneath. From far away, he looks unbeatable. Sharp sword, polished shield, steady steps. But the first hit breaks him. Because the real damage happened long before the battle even started. That's how a lot of people live. They spend years polishing their image while letting their spirit rot underneath. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your soul takes on the color of whatever you keep thinking about. Fill it with fear, and you start seeing danger everywhere. Fill it with resentment, and every stranger becomes an enemy. Fill it with insecurity, and no amount of praise will ever feel like enough. There comes a moment every strong person has to face, burying the version of themselves that's addicted to excuses, hooked on approval, and scared of failing. Not because that version deserves hate, but because it can never carry you into the life you're actually built for. The old you has to die so the disciplined you can be born. Ninth, become someone even pain can't move. There's a level of strength very few people ever reach. It's the moment life realizes it can't bargain with you anymore. It sends failure. You stay disciplined. It sends betrayal. You stay honest. It sends loneliness. You stay whole. It sends humiliation. Your dignity stays right where it is. This is the point where suffering stops being your enemy and starts becoming the thing that builds your strength. Most people spend their lives praying for an easier road. The Stoics prayed for stronger shoulders instead. Picture an old oak tree standing alone on the edge of a cliff, where every winter brings brutal wind. Smaller trees snap right in half, branches scattered across the frozen ground. But the oak keeps standing, year after year. Not because the storm went easy on it, but because every storm forced its roots to dig deeper into the ground. Comfort builds a fragile life. Getting knocked around builds a foundation nothing can shake. Seneca said fire tests gold, and hard times test real character. Most people hear that and admire it, but very few actually live by it. The second pain shows up, they start asking, why me? Blaming everyone and everything, handing over their peace to whatever they can't control. The Stoic asks a different question instead. What part of me is this pain trying to make stronger? That one question changes everything. Rejection becomes discipline. Loneliness becomes self-discovery. Failure becomes wisdom. Loss becomes the start of freedom. You may never realize how closely people are watching you. Your family watches how you handle disappointment. Even strangers quietly study how you carry yourself through hard times. Character is never a private thing. The way you deal with pain echoes into lives you'll never even meet. 10th. Live so well time can't erase you. Every human being dies twice. The first time is when the heart stops for good. The second is much later, when the last trace of who you were disappears from the minds of the people you touched. Most people are afraid of the first death because it ends their life. The Stoics were afraid of the second because it means they lived without ever really meaning anything. A long life means nothing if you spent it chasing approval instead of building something worth remembering. Walk through the ruins of old Rome, cracked marble palaces, golden crowns turned to dust. Voices that once ran entire nations, gone completely silent. Countless emperors thought their power would last forever, but history only remembers a handful of names, not because they had more money or bigger armies, but because their character outlasted time itself. Empires fall. Monuments crumble. But wisdom has a strange way of outliving every civilization that tries to bury it. Marcus Aurelius knew that even his empire would one day just be a memory. He couldn't control whether people would remember him kindly or not. The only thing he could control was who he chose to become before the sun went down each day. That's why he never measured success by applause or comfort. He measured it with one quiet question. Did I leave my soul stronger than I found it this morning? One day, your things will belong to someone else. Your photos will fade. The people who say your name every day now will one day say it for the last time. That's not a reason to fear life. It's the reason to stop wasting it. In the end, only one question is left standing. Who did you become while time quietly carried everything else away? That's the real secret the Stoics left behind. Life was never about beating every enemy, or winning every fight, or convincing the world you're worth something. It was about becoming someone that no amount of suffering could break, no amount of praise could spoil, and no amount of hate could poison. When your character grows stronger than your circumstances, the world loses its power to define you. That's real freedom. That's real wealth. That's the one victory not even death can take from you. So years from now, when your story reaches its last page, people won't remember how many arguments you won. They'll remember the strength you had when life got hard, the calm you kept when everyone else lost theirs, and the good you left behind in a world that needed it. Master your mind. Protect your character. Let time be the proof that you actually lived, not just existed. If any of this hit you the way it hit me, drop one word in the comments. Unbreakable. Not to prove anything to anyone else. Just as a promise to yourself, that starting today, you protect your peace harder than your pride, your character more than your image, and your purpose more than your comfort. Because in the end, the strongest person was never the one who beat the world. It was the one who beat himself. And that person can never really lose.